I'm not going to force you to do them if you're not reciprocating what I'm giving, then we're just not meant to be together. And that's okay. And I'm not going to hold a grudge against you. I'm not going to hate you. I'm not going to think that you're a bad person. We just not meant for each other. And I think before I'd be like, what is wrong with you? Like, why don't you love me? Like, why aren't you doing the right things? I'm like, cause you're not my person. And that's okay.
This is Sad Boy Radio.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Sad Boy Radio. I'm your host, Matt, and today, man, we got a very special guest. Not from here, man. We've been having a lot of guests that aren't even from Chicago recently, so that's dope. Originally from Massachusetts, like we said, Brockton, little suburb outside of Boston. Recently toured with Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
Recently on your own tour, and I guess you had to flex that you're a Leo or something,
Yeah,
right?
I had to let the people know.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Lea The Leo. I am from Brockton, Massachusetts, and I am a multi-genre artist.
The overall sound is like it brings you this peace, and then you listen to it and you're like, oh, like maybe she's just a little sad for real.
Yeah, a little sad is real.
But first off, we gotta open up with it because I like to do the very professional shit and then get into the personal. How did this tour with Mariah Carey all happen?
My mom uh has worked with her for a few years. My stepmom, she's a vocalist as well, and she was putting together the choir. And finally, I guess I like earned my stripes enough for her to bring me on to a gig. But it was crazy because it started as just a couple of shows. We were just doing like the Hollywood Bowl and like one other show, so 3 shows in total. And then after the second show, they decided they wanted to bring us on for the rest of the tour. So I work a day job, and I had to like let my job know like 2 days before I left for a month, and I was like, "Hey, I'm leaving," and they were really supportive about it. So that was good. But yeah,
You hit them with a PTO request, but it's not really a request. It's
which
I'm out.
exactly, because first of all, I had already used all my PTO. But no, they were really supportive about it. They really support me. But there's a lot of, I mean, I'm in LA, so it's a lot of artists and musicians and all that stuff that work most places. So they're understanding.
Are you still doing that day job?
Yeah.
What did you do for this one?
Well, this one I knew in advance, so I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna be gone for a month again," um, and they were like, "Cool, thanks for letting us know."
How do you feel like touring with Mariah helped you develop as an artist?
I feel like my biggest thing that I realized while touring with Mariah was like I don't want to be behind Mariah. I want to be where she's standing. So I think that alone was important for me because it was good money and it was a great experience. I've met some amazing people and I learned a lot. But yeah, I think that was the biggest thing I took away was like I really want to go home and grind so I can get to the point where I'm touring doing my own thing.
What was the moment that instilled that though? Because that's like a unique and crazy thought, right? Because not a lot of people would be like, "No, I want to be there." Most people would be comfortable and say, "I'm getting paid nice to be in the background." Why the front? What was the moment?
I mean, it's not about like the money for me why I'm doing it, and I love performing, and I love connecting with an audience, and I saw the way that her fans like admired her and the way that she was connecting with her fans, and like I want to have that impact on people. Um, and like there was multiple nights where I was back there doing my little jig, and I was like, oh, I just want to be up there. She was looking gorgeous in her gowns and everything, and everybody was just admiring her and yeah, I want to be able to have that kind of impact on my audience and I want to be able to connect with people in that way.
What do you feel like was the most important takeaway, like quality wise, right? Because there's that there's that urgency or that want that you realized on that tour. And I'm sure you had it before, but what was the quality that you took away from her that you feel like you've been able to implement on this tour?
One is like Mariah Carey started as a background singer. And so she had to work her way up to where she was and I feel the same way where I need to earn my stripes and like this tour that I'm on now is a completely different like vibe overall as far as like where we're staying and I'm driving the bus. I'm not being driven by somebody, you know what I mean? So like um yeah, I feel like I'm definitely earning my stripes with this tour.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
I couldn't drive halfway across the country.
I love driving actually. I'm somebody who I prefer to drive. I don't really like being driven by other people. I mean, I love being a passenger princess when the time comes, but like I don't trust everybody driving, so, like, I was fine with it at first, but then after doing a couple six-hour drives, I was like, "Oh, okay, I'm over this. I don't wanna do this anymore."
Have you been traumatized in the car? Is that what it is?
Yeah, a lot of people in my family are interesting drivers. But I also just I yeah, I'm comfortable driving and I enjoy driving for the most part, but I think that's changed now.
Yeah, I definitely would want to stay in the back seat after a
Yeah.
couple 6-hour drives.
Oh my
You didn't
god.
just say one, you said a
A
couple.
couple, yeah.
Now the first thing, well, the other thing, other first thing we got to bring up is this rebrand into including Leo. Why did you feel that was so important?
Well, okay, for starters, just to be completely honest, I thought it looked cute. Um, but I did completely turn it into like I haven't always connected with the Leo sign. I haven't always felt like the stereotypical Leo who's super confident and who's like really bold and out there. I was kind of a shyer kid. And like everybody, I had my insecurities, but with my music, I wanted to really like embody that and be confident. And I wanted to and not in the conceited way of like the oh my god Leo who like loves her makeup and does her hair or whatever, but like I do, but like that's not the whole point. I want to be confident enough to encourage other people to also stand in their confidence and stand in like their identity, because they can create their own identity. You can be whoever you want to be. So I was like, I'm gonna be a Leo and I'm gonna put an X at the end. I'm gonna be extra with it. So
Why do you feel like you didn't embody that before though?
growing up, you grow into the person that you are, and it can be a little rough, especially as like a girl trying to like be confident and experiencing bullying and different life changes and things like that, not being the most confident person. um yeah, I think it took a little while for me to figure out who I was. Even throughout college, I feel like I still didn't really know who I was until the pandemic happened, and then I had to really sit with myself, and just be okay with where I was in that moment. And I think that's when I really learned myself and like learned to love myself.
At that time, growing up, you mentioned that there's a lot of things that you go through that they man, they sometimes can make you take a turn for the worse or they can make you take a turn for the best. What do you feel like was one of the hardest things you had to overcome?
There was a few things. One obviously being super insecure and dealing with bullying and like feeling like nobody understood me. I always felt very deeply misunderstood, like in school, in academics, like um having, undiagnosed learning disabilities and like just feeling like nobody really understood me and the way that I received things. And then, family things going on throughout my childhood of just like not having like a concrete this is like your comfy home where like you have your two parents and like a beautiful like rainbow and a little bow on it. Like that's how I imagined, people who had a two-parent household. There's like a little bow. But yeah, I think the nothing too crazy. I mean, I got through it, but yeah, just I think I had a deep lack of a sense of self growing up. I was always trying to be somebody else or trying to adapt to other people because I didn't understand myself enough. I was trying to take everything from other people. I'm like, "Oh, she talks like this, she acts like this, she thinks like this," like, pulling all those things, so I just didn't know who I was.
And I mean, as a kid, that's what you do, right? You mimic what you see. You are the company you keep. And that's why you see a lot of kids, they fall into certain patterns when they're around their friends. Um, even household. That's why it's so important that you create a nurturing environment. There's always that conversation of nature over nurture. And it's both because when your natural I don't want to say habitat because that just sounds wrong, but when your natural home isn't filled with that nurture, then what do you expect? What do you expect to get? And then when there's a natural home who has that nurture, it's more than likely you're gonna get a good result, right? But you still can't even say like, oh, everybody's good because everybody has their flaws. Do you feel like growing up in a household where it wasn't what you pictured as like the ideal family? Because you said right in a two-parent household, you pictured it with a little pink bow.
Mhm.
How did that affect the way that you viewed relationships as you continue to grow?
Oh, you getting deep. Hold on. I mean, I'd love to preface like I love my parents. I love my family. I'm very loved by my family. But I grew up. to two parents who they had me at 17. So like obviously learning as a child, having a child, like you're gonna make mistakes. My father was also a musician, so he I think around the time I was 7 went on tour, or his first tour, like he moved to LA. And that was also a lot deeper and nuanced his whole experience as well. So like having two parents who are just trying to like learn themselves and figure out their lives as young adults. Like I think about me now, I'm 24. If I had an 8-year old, I don't know what I would be doing. No. So I get it. But yeah, I think it definitely made me kind of as far as relationships go, seek out the wrong people, or look for the wrong things in people sometimes, or like accept the bare minimum. I think I wanted to be loved so bad, that we'll be getting deep. Yeah, I wanted to be loved so bad. I was kind of just accepting it from anybody who was willing to give it to me at one point. Which I mean, you can kind of hear in my music. I talk about like unrequited love and just falling into relationships with people who I kind of knew weren't right for me, but like I was settling for just a little bit of love because I didn't love myself enough, or I didn't feel like I had love like I needed it. So,
Is that whole album, is it about one specific relationship?
the songs that are about love, yeah, it's about one person.
Before we hop all the way into that, there's a big part of your life that had taken place, and that was you going to school. This pretty much sets you up for everywhere that you're gonna go afterwards.
Yeah.
Prior to pursuing music full time as the artist, you went to school for music management, artist management.
Mhm.
Why?
So I went into Berkeley College of Music like I want to be an artist. I want to make music. That kind of. I had a small concept of like what that really meant for me at that time. Obviously, I was 17. But when I got there, everybody was doing amazing things, and I think I was a little intimidated by that, by being around so many talented people who are also trying to, they're singers and they're performers and all these things. And I was kind of looking at myself and where I was at that time and just feeling not super, super confident in it. So I was like, what's a way I can make money? And I was like, music business. It's got business in the word. And, so like that sounds like money. But yeah, that definitely didn't, looking back at it, I wish I could have talked to little me and just be like, go with your heart. Don't think about that. And you had a reason for coming to this school because honestly, all the stuff that I learned in music business kind of went in one ear and out the other because I didn't care about it. And also, that goes back to the whole learning disability thing. Like, if I don't care about something, like it's going to be harder for me to learn about it. So I coasted all the way through all of that. So yeah, I think yeah, it was more of like a strategic move that didn't even end up being very strategic.
I mean, it'd be like that.
You know?
I especially going to school through the pandemic. That fucked a lot of things up.
Yeah.
But what I want to touch on first is,
Yeah.
the idea that you couldn't really, the idea that you moved away from music because you had this passion, you had this love, and that's what you went there for. And you saw all these people. But what was it that made you feel like, I can't do it? Everybody else is doing it. I can't.
I mean, definitely the whole like just not being confident enough in my abilities. I wasn't even writing that much music at that time. I wasn't performing that much, and I think yeah, just overall intimidation. But I also at that time, which not the person that I wrote this project about, but I had really quickly gotten into a relationship at that time, like within my first month of being at school, and it turned into like a playing wifey kind of situation, and it just nobody saw me. I was always with that one person and I was not feeding into myself the way I should have been. And I think that also kind of played into why I didn't pursue music more in college. It's because I didn't know who I was. I wasn't feeding into myself. I wasn't nurturing these things in myself at that time. Um, but yeah, I mean, it all bubbles down to that pandemic. Like it was like a hard time, but like it really changed a lot for me.
Man, that was the next question. What changed then? What changed everything?
With music business management, my final course I was supposed to go into an internship, and the pandemic happened when I had 3 months left of school. So I had one semester left, and they were like, "You have 4 days to pack up all your stuff and go." And I had already bought a ticket for spring break to go to LA, and I hadn't booked the return ticket yet, or I don't know if I did and I just canceled it, but I went to LA and I was like, all right, let's just do it because it's either I stay in Boston, don't know when I can get out there, or I just go to LA and like start it now, which it didn't start then because it was a pandemic, but I couldn't do my internship credit, and um which that was gonna be my, like, entrance into the music industry, was doing that internship at, like, whatever label or whatever I wanted to do at that time, but because I couldn't do it, I was kinda just, like, forced to stay at home and just write music, and I was just in that house writing and learning guitar and just spending so much time with myself and, like, learning myself and just being in nature and painting and doing all these things that really made me realize, like, I'm not supposed to be behind a desk. I'm not supposed to be behind a computer. I'm not supposed to be doing all those things because I don't like doing those things. What I'm supposed to be doing is making music because I'm good at it and I enjoy doing it.
I heard all of that, but I'm stuck on the fact that dude didn't even. You said it's not about him.
It was a different man.
Before or after?
After. I keep hitting this one. Yeah, it was after. Um, yeah, that college relationship was like almost a 2 year long relationship, and the project was kind of written about a situationship. It was was one of them Pisces men. Don't do it.
That's low key kind of one of my biggest fears, that the person that you're with ends up caring more about the person that they're with for like 3 months. I'm like, damn, bro, that's a reality.
I mean, I'm the one who ended up getting hurt anyway. So, I guess joke's on me.
So did you ever get to do the internship or?
No. No, I never did an internship. I think I just took, like, a music business class as a credit so I could graduate. Because I did summer semesters so I could graduate early, so I did college in 3 years instead of 4.
Twins. I did it in 3 years.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
"There's no way I'm staying here for 4 years," which is great because if I hadn't done that, I would've been doing a whole year online, and I don't think I ever would've gotten that degree. I don't think it would've worked for me. Nobody cares about the degree in this business, even, like, when you are in the music business. It's about who you know and how you talk to people and how you do the job. So, like, it doesn't matter if you really went to school for it or not.
And it's also really about your experience too. Like, whatever they see that you've done. Shout out to our dude Mike. Damn, you're fucking up. Shout out to our dude Mike, Magazine Mike. He runs Forgotten Mag, and he was telling us how he got a Def Jam job off of fucking the magazine when he was in what was he in? He was in high school when he started or something, college, something crazy like that. And I was like, bro, what the fuck? And it's just one of those things where it's like you build something and you build and you build and you hope somebody sees it, and then you hear stories like that and you're like, oh, like those are real stories.
Right.
That's a real thing for real.
Yeah, that's why I say these arts institutions are low key some of the biggest scams. Like, but we don't have to get into that.
You got took for a couple grand.
Luckily, I had a scholarship. Like, I wasn't going to Berkeley if I didn't have a scholarship, because that school was incredibly expensive. And like and this isn't to bash on Berkeley. This is just an institutional thing overall. But like to be paying that much money for a profession that you're not guaranteed any turnaround within the first or 5 years. Like you go to school to be a doctor, you're pretty much guaranteed a profession from there in some way. But you're paying $64,000 a year to go to this school to come out and be a struggling artist or broke artist or like, trying to also have to pay your debt on top of that. It's just I think there's a lack of like the realism with the students there, on like how the real world works when you get out.
I think that's colleges in general
Yeah,
though,
exactly.
because I went to school for psychology and you can't do anything with that degree unless you go get a master's. And then after you get a master's, you're most likely gonna go get a doctorate. It's stupid to stop at a master's for psychology. So it's like, when I got out, it was very like, oh, what's next? What do I do next? And I was doing this and I love doing this. And but you go home, you got your family, you got your parents. So what's next? What are you gonna do with your life?
Like I don't
I'm
know.
21 years old. I graduated at 21. I'm 21 years old. No clue. Leave me alone. I'm gonna still pursue what I want to pursue, and that's when it comes down to you get those crazy looks, and you're like, oh no, I can't stop. I can't do it.
Luckily, my dad softened the blow for me. He did it first. He was the first one to go out and like I'm gonna tour the world and I'm gonna play saxophone. He was a saxophone player, which is like one of the hardest instruments to like book, but he's so good at what he does that he was on every stage, so it worked out for him. But he softened that blow for me of like being the musician in the family and like going out into the world.
So after COVID, you go back home, or back home as in LA, because you started living with your parents, right? In the song Topanga Blues, you say, "Round and round we go, searching for something new. This place is nothing like the place I knew."
Mhm.
And throughout the whole song, it really sounds like an ode to LA or California. I don't know if that's what you wrote it about, but you write about how it's warm and that you don't got to go back to the cold. A lot like Chicago, you
Yeah.
being the fucking cold.
Shoveling snow.
So break this down a little bit. What was going on at that time?
It was an ode to LA in a way, and in a way to my hometown, just like acknowledging that everything looks different. And while it's beautiful and it's shiny, and you have the sun shining and there's these beautiful mountains, if you listen to the second verse, it's here where it's warm in the winter, stars die for something bigger. Wind blows through my window and dries the tears on my pillow. So even though it's so beautiful, there's still like a darkness or like a side to following my dreams while I'm here. But first, I'm talking about how my city was telling me kind of like, you're not going anywhere, like you're not going to be able to make it. Now I'm here and I'm watching everybody struggle and like fight to make it and like, lose themselves to make it. So it's just like a balance of like two completely different places where nowhere really feels exactly like home. But I'm feeling peace, like being by myself while I'm driving through the mountains, and like I'm not worried about what everybody down there is doing or everybody back home is doing. I'm just cruising through Topanga Blues, or Topanga Canyon.
How have you not fallen out of being yourself? How have you not let go of that part of you?
I mean, it's hard, and there's been little moments where I mean, I'm still learning, I'm still young, and I'm still figuring it out. But thankfully, my dad and my stepmom, like I have them, and I have them to like kind of bounce off of, and they've been in the industry a lot longer than I have, so I kind of had a better understanding of how things worked before I even got into it, and they keep me grounded. And then my grandparents, my mom, everybody, my family really keeps me grounded. And reminds me that like I'm I'm more than just what I'm chasing. Like I'll talk to my grandmother all the time about like, dang, I wish I was doing more. Like I'm not doing enough. Like I'm struggling. And she's like, you're too hard on yourself because to us, you look like you're doing so much. But everybody has different perspectives. Obviously, it's gonna be to yourself. You're gonna think that you're not doing. You need to be doing more. But yeah, just reminding myself that I am just a little girl from Brockton, Massachusetts, but that's what makes me powerful.
Sometimes when people say those stories about being from the suburbs, it be making me think, I'm like, damn, I'll never say I wish I was from the suburbs. But being from Chicago, it's like you hear somebody say, "Oh, I'm just this person from Rockland County. I'm just this person from Brockton. I'm just this person from Aurora." It's like they view it as almost like I could have got stuck there, but I was able to break out and go find my own way in this world, and that's beautiful. Being from Chicago, I'm like, damn, I gotta be something. I gotta go do something. And that goes into the mentality of being a creative, right? Where you think that every day, if you're not doing something, you're falling behind. If this post didn't get 1,000, 2,000 views, oh, that's it. It's a
Right.
wrap.
You're done.
And the reality is that things can change like that.
Yeah.
It changes every single day.
Mhm.
Just like that fucking algorithm. That
Yeah.
algorithm changes every
Ooh,
day.
that algorithm.
It's just fucking me up right now.
I know.
And it's just one of those, back to your point of it feels like we're not doing enough.
Mm.
We beat ourselves up so often that we allow it to control everything in our life. We allow it to make us forget about the people around us. We allow it to make it forget about shit. I got people at home that love me and care about me, and I'm over here focused on this video that I need to put out that's probably gonna get like 20 likes. I be I be thinking about that when I see people's posts get like 20 likes and I know they put in all this work. I'm like, damn, I feel so bad for you,
Yeah.
bro.
Well, not to like go on a tangent, but like I feel like a lot of the new music that I'm writing and working on right now is kind of foreshadowing that of like I think the big question is like what if I hadn't done this? Like what if I was to just live what I see as like a more normal day-to-day life? And like I was kind of battling with that for a little while for over the past year of like this career is hard. Um Work wise, but also on your mental. Like you're constantly being perceived. You're putting your most vulnerable parts of yourself into the world for people to digest and tell you if they like it or not. And like that's really rough and like it can be very like taxing as a human being. And like what if I was just like baking a pie in my kitchen for my kids like while after I got home from work or whatever. And I think that there's beauty in that lifestyle too. I think with the whole pushing yourself and like being so hard on yourself, I let myself forget there is a beauty in like life in general, not just putting so much value in like your career and what you're doing and while you should continue to work hard and like I'm a very hard worker, so I'm gonna probably keep on the whole like being hard on myself in a little bit because I think it's what pushes me. But not to forget that life is beautiful and that I'm alive and that like I'm healthy. I have my family, I have a roof over my head, all these things. Like, don't forget those things.
What was it that made you really take that step back and look at that though?
I feel like it was happening recently. I'm honestly still kind of in that moment. Like I think that is like the biggest like kind of point of my life that I'm in right now. It's just like reminding myself. I had to constantly remind myself. I think the biggest thing was like I just came out of a really deep depression a couple months ago of just feeling so worthless and like hopeless and just feeling like none of this is going to work out, especially after that last project. Like it went great, but I think there was so much I could have done better, like pushing it and like more I could have done. And like having moments that should be really great big moments for me as an artist instead of looking them at them as like, oh, this was a great moment for me, like let's keep going. It was like, dang, that wasn't big enough, I need more. And then sitting too much in that. And so yeah, I think that coming out of that like dark depression that I was in a couple months ago because I was down bad. Now I'm just like, what can I do to maintain my mental health and instead of putting so much of my value in my career, my personal value into my career, um, start just like appreciating life and like smelling the flowers and that type of shit. Like, because that's like what it is to be a human. If you think about human existence, you take away all this extra shit, like the. Sorry, I'm
No, you're.
cussing. Okay.
I swore like 20 times. I'm like, damn, is she not gonna swear? I'm feeling alone
I've been
out
holding
here.
myself back, but yeah, you take all this extra shit away. You take the lights away. You take the phones away. You take all the TVs away. Like you have the birds, the trees, the air that we breathe, the food that we eat, and the ground that we feel. And like being able to appreciate that as so beautiful and like a gift from God herself. You know what I mean? I think that's what helps me get through the day a little bit more, and I'm trying to do a little bit more of that um, to keep myself sane.
You need to find a way to start appreciating the things that are present. Do you think because you place so much value on who you were as an artist, and even still to this day, right? I'm sure you do. But because you continue to do that, and when things fail, it makes you feel almost like less.
It's harder to get back up, like,
Hmm.
when you fail or, like, when you have a rough moment or a rough patch because I was placing so much value in me succeeding, it was harder to get back up and keep going. It was like it just felt like that meme where it was, like, the guy mining for diamonds or gold or whatever, and
People bring this up every
because it's
podcast.
so real, though, it's so real, like, you're so close, and I've kept going, but I feel like when I was putting so much value in like being so great, it weighs you down more. So it was harder to get up every time or to just try again or to get back up and like try something new. But when I put more value in just like me as a human being, outside of my music, I'm also to make I'm able to make better music.
You put so much value in what you do and make it your personality, and you make it who you are, that when it fails, everything crashes. And then you're looking and you're like, why am I putting so much value in this one thing into who I am? But that's because that's all you've known for such a long time. And because usually that's something that saved you at a point where you didn't even really know who you were, and you really didn't even feel anything. So you started up this thing. I mean, music has been around for you forever, but it pulled you out of a certain place. For this, it pulled me out of a certain place. So I almost sometimes feel indebted to it, that I can't stop this because I started because I was that in a different place. And you continue to grow, right? We've done this for 3 years. Sure. How long have you been doing music now?
Oh, I mean, releasing music about 3 years.
So you do this for 3 years and you're like, maybe it doesn't feel like it did when you first started, but there's a stronger appreciation for it. And there's also this stronger want to continue to do it. But some days it's just like, is this really what I want still? Is it even who I am, or am I just making it who I am because it pulled me out of a certain place?
Well, I think those are the days that make it more valuable though, because when you get through it, then it's like, oh, I really do want this though, because I was able to have the thought and able to have that like realization, like, oh, is this really what I want to do? But for you to keep pushing through and to continue, even though you know it's hard and it's been a little rough, and you keep doing it, that means like, yeah, you really must want this shit, because like you have to be kind of crazy to chase to do this.
No, you have to be
You
crazy.
have to
Not
be a
kind of
little,
crazy. You have
yeah.
to be
I'm not
crazy.
all that crazy, but yeah, I gotta be a little kooky.
So back to Topanga Blues. You say that you're searching for something new. What was this thing that you were searching for at the time?
I think at the time I was searching for like a new reality, instead of from the whole like dreams perspective of like, oh, I can't wait until I'm doing this, or I can't wait until I'm there, or I can't wait to start. It's like now I'm actually starting. Like we're at the point of like, this is something new and I'm actually doing it. Like I'm actually in LA now. I'm actually making music. I'm releasing it. I'm performing instead of just dreaming about it. Um, and yeah, I think that was something new, was just like the actually doing it.
Which is what everybody says, right? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna start. Um, we do you know who Ashoka is? Yeah, we interviewed him when we were out in LA, and he has that song where tomorrow's gonna be the day. Tomorrow's gonna be the day I do everything that I ever said I was gonna do, and tomorrow comes and but it doesn't at the same time. Because every day you say I'm gonna do it, but it never really happens until you just pick it up and you make shit happen, which is what you did, right? You moved out to LA, you had that reset. How did that reset help you find who Leia would become?
To put it visually, like I literally sat in my room by myself with a guitar that I didn't know how to play and was just figuring it out. And I think that in itself was very like spiritual for me, to just sit with myself and like even just something as simple as feeling like feeling the chords and feeling things through and just working through it and like making something beautiful out of like I didn't know what I was doing with that guitar is like a perfect example or a perfect description of what I was doing at that time, was just kind of making something out of whatever I had and like being okay with it sounding bad at first. I was also never good at that. Like I was always like it has to sound great, so I wouldn't do it because it didn't sound great. So I wouldn't learn to play piano. I wouldn't teach myself guitar, or I wouldn't do those vocal warm-ups because like ew, it sounds gross. But like you got to get through the bad sounding stuff to get to the good sounding things. Um and so yeah, just working through the ickiness um and I was painting so much at that time, which I'm a very visual person too. Like even with my music, like when I make a song, I think of the visual immediately. And I think even painting was like helpful for me for like making music. And just being, yeah, creative. I was also smoking all day, so there's that too.
I
But
was gonna say, how high were you? You
I was
said
so
I'm
high.
feeling the chords. That sounds like some high ass shit.
But it was great. I was really tapped in. Like
What do you feel like was the toughest realization you had to come to during that time alone?
the toughest realization was that I didn't know myself. Like to actually accept that the person that I've been for the past 4 years is not who I really am, and I've been like acting. I think that was really hard for me because I've never thought of myself to not be a genuine person or to not be true to myself, but like yeah, the realization of the person that you were for these past couple of years while you were in college, while you were in these relationships or whatever, is not who you really are, and you never gave yourself the time to really figure out who you were, because you were so hell bent on satisfying other people or making other people comfortable with who you are. And I'm no longer making people comfortable with my personality. I'm just being who I am. And I mean that in a very kind way. Like I'll always be a kind person. I'll always be considerate, but I'm not going to change who I am anymore. And I used to do that. So I think that that was the hardest realization, was like, damn bitch, you don't know who you are. You have no idea.
And I think that COVID really had a hand in that,
Yeah.
right? Because those are the years that you're supposed to be learning who you are and
Mhm.
figuring out the things that you identify with and the things that matter to you.
Yeah.
We were early 20s, graduating college.
Mhm.
You graduate college, everybody has that lost feeling when they graduate college, no matter if it's COVID or not.
Right.
You're like, damn, who the fuck am I? Because I just spent all this time with the same people every single day for 4 years. They're not around no more.
Yeah.
And some things that you identified with, just like you said, I don't feel that no more.
No. Yeah.
That's not even who I am. And I don't even know if it ever was that person.
Yeah.
What did you feel yourself drift from the most once you moved away?
I drifted from everybody. I didn't really talk to anybody. I wasn't the friend who was good at keeping up with, like, my best friend will say, like, she was like nitpicking trying to get me to even pick up the phone. Um, so I think I drifted away from the people I was surrounding myself with at the time because I was like trying to figure out who I was. And I think there was an element of like not knowing if they were still gonna like me or if they were still gonna like receive me. Not that I'm like a drastically different person, but like I do have a better understanding of self and I'm not as I was a very what's the word? Like I was a very accommodating person and I was a very like yes to everything and like we can do whatever you want to do. Like it's fine. I was a very go with the flow, which I still am, but I didn't realize at the time it was because I didn't know what I wanted. It wasn't because I was just okay with what everybody wanted. I didn't know what I wanted and I didn't have enough confidence that other people would be okay with whatever I wanted in a broad sense. So yeah, I think I needed time away from everybody who knew me as Maya.
Is Leia your middle name?
It's part of my middle name.
Okay.
It's a derivative. An artist, I was watching one of their interviews and they were talking about how they don't like when their fans call them their real name because their artist name is like them as an artist and they like the separation between them as an artist and them as a person. And I do think I like that because my name is Maya, but Maya is not the artist. Leia is the artist. Maya is a musician, and so is Leia. But like my artistry is a little bit different than I want the separation.
How do you feel like the artistry is different though?
It's me telling the stories, but I think that the person, like the whole Leia thing, the person who's willing to put it in front of everybody, and the person who's willing to be in front of this camera is Leia. But like Maya was not that person. Maya was very like, I'm gonna be in my sweatpants, and I'm like gonna go smoke my blunt and like drink my beer, which is also still Leia. But like I do like to have the separation because I do understand how this industry goes, and I do understand that people will nitpick at you and they will try to turn you into who they think you are as far as like their perception, and you won't do that to me. You could do it to Leia, but you won't do it to me.
So why did you feel like it was so important to people please though? Where do you feel like that came from?
My mom. I love my mom so much. She's the sweetest woman in the world. She's my little Irish lady from Brockton, Massachusetts, but she's definitely a people pleaser. She's my little ball of anxiety. But I think I watched her make herself smaller to accommodate other people, whether it was in her family or in her friendships or in things like that. I mean, especially having a child at 17 years old and having to make that your full priority is being a mom now. I think I watched how she would do everything she could to make other people happy. And I think when you make that your only like your whole thing, there's gonna be people you still don't satisfy, and now you're not happy or you're not fulfilled, you know? So I think watching that, yeah, I was like, I wanna be able to change that.
You tear yourself down when you realize that, oh, this person's upset with me. Why are you upset with me? What did I do? And when you can't figure it out, it'll drive you through a wall.
It's so interesting, like growing up too and like meeting your parents as an adult and like seeing them as like human beings instead of just as your mom and your dad. And like I know my mom is a product of the things that she grew up and she experienced and the traumas that she has. And like I fully see that in her and like that makes me appreciate her so much more and just want to give her like a big old hug and I want her to like stop people pleasing.
So how did you see this show up in your own relationships?
Yeah, it was the minimizing, like, even down to something like if that made me upset or like that made me uncomfortable, I wouldn't say it. But I would internally probably get like frustrated or like it would build up. Multiple things would build up until then I finally like blew up maybe one day. But I think I never felt comfortable just saying the little things, which could have also been probably the partners that I was choosing. I think it was a little bit of both, me not saying it and them not giving me a comfortable, safe space to say it. Because I've now been with somebody who like made me feel comfortable to just say what I was feeling. And it doesn't have to be like I'm attacking you because I don't like what you did. It's just me being honest, and now we can move forward. And I want you to do the same thing with me, is be honest about something that I did that you didn't like.
Is that where unspoken comes from?
It's exactly that. I kept the door shut, but the windows were wide open. Like I closed myself off, but there was a window open. So like if you really wanted to get to know me or you really wanted to find out those little things, you could have made the effort, but I also wasn't making it easy for you.
Not one of those. Oh my gosh.
I'm not that way
I'm
anymore.
having war flashbacks. That's what I'm having right now.
Yeah. I mean, I've learned like I think being able to evaluate myself at that time and like to see that those were the things that I was doing and to be able to write that song and be completely honest, like I was writing it from a toxic place, I think, but now I'm like, okay, I understand. I was doing those things because I didn't know how to express myself. I didn't feel comfortable to, but I also know it's not fair to do to somebody else either. Like putting up those walls and just expecting them to jump over them is not fair. And I wouldn't want somebody to do that to me.
Which is the next song. Uh Over Again. In the song Over Again, you say, after 365 days of nothing to say, what can I say? Oh, would you have listened or created distance? Maybe I'm fucked up, too many problems, got too many walls up that I thought you would climb. What was it about this relationship that made it so important for you to document and write this story out?
Back to your point of like this was like my situationship, and like you would think that from the 2 year long relationship I'd have more of these things to come out and talk about. But I think after coming out of that 2 year long relationship where it was like a committed relationship, but it had all of its toxic, qualities to it, being in this relationship where or situationship where I'm like, it was more fun in a way in the moment, like where I'm chasing after something, and like it's keeping me on my toes. But it was also like I that was within me learning myself because it bled into the pandemic. It was from college into pandemic of like me during this time of self-discovery, but also still a slight attachment to, like, who I was too, and I think this person which we're cool now, like, we're chill,
I wrote a whole album about them. I'm chill with them.
yeah, we're chill. They know the music's about them, I think. We never had that conversation, but, um, yeah, I think it was, like, being able to write these songs and to have that experience is what, like, forced me to learn my patterns, and see what I was doing that I had been doing in prior relationships.
You leave a part of yourself in somebody, and when that person's gone, and it, like you said, it could be a long time, it could be a short time. Typically, that short time, you're like, oh, I was this specific person during this time. So then you're almost like, I liked who I was at that time. So you reminisce on it more. And I guess that's why sometimes it does mean a little bit, not that it means a little bit more, but it's easier to convey those emotions because it's at one specific moment.
I think it was like that was my reflection relationship, like the one where I was like, I'm forced to see myself and what I'm doing because you're not receiving it, like you're not falling for it.
In what ways have you seen this relationship continue to follow you to this day?
I don't know. I think I really left that so in the past. I kind of closed that door so hard after leaving it open for so long. But I think that like I do a little bit less of yearning to be or like chasing and yearning for somebody to accept me or give me the things that I deserve in a healthy relationship when I know that I'm giving these things. I don't I'm not going to force you to do them if you're not reciprocating what I'm giving, then we're just not meant to be together. And that's okay. And I'm not going to hold a grudge against you. I'm not going to hate you. I'm not going to think that you're a bad person. We just not meant for each other. And I think before I'd be like, what is wrong with you? Like, why don't you love me? Like, why aren't you doing the right things? I'm like, cause you're not my person. And that's okay. Maybe you'll do the right thing for the right person. Maybe you won't. I don't know, but that has nothing to do with me.
That thought didn't drive you crazy though?
Oh, it did. It did for a long time. It still kind of does, but like I think the part of like being an adult is like having to accept that and like also understanding that has their own unique human experience too. That was my biggest thing. Like you're not living for me and I'm not living for you. Like that's why next relationship I have, like I want two worlds that come together. I don't want our worlds to be so intertwined that I rely on you for like emotional support or like I don't think that is a healthy way to go about things. Like I need us there needs to be a separation because you have your own life, I have my own life. But if we have a mutual respect for each other, um, then we can blossom into something beautiful.
I think that's the hard thing for people to understand sometimes too, is that there's always been this idea that your worlds have to be interweaved together, right? There, for some reason, people have built up this idea that relationships, you have to do everything together. Your lives have to make sense together. And it's really like, I want you to be able to be happy by yourself. I want to be happy by myself. And when we're together,
It makes it so much more beautiful.
and I think that some people, they just don't understand that because shit, it just takes time, right? Everybody needs to, like you said, they have their own unique human experience. So going through that and finally understanding that, once you see that, I think it makes things a lot easier. Now another, I was gonna say bar, but you're not a rapper. I guess it's a bar, right?
Not yet. No.
Another line you say is, maybe I'm fucked up, too many problems, got too many walls up. Where did this idea that you were the problem come from?
Well, I mean it flips. Like I think it started with me thinking like I'm the one who it is the one that has my walls up and like maybe that's why you're not telling me how you feel and because I'm the one who has the guard up and I did in a way like I also wasn't telling this person how I felt like I wasn't like oh I have feelings for you let's be more than what we're just fucking around doing you know what I mean I wasn't saying any of those things because I was expecting them to say it and after having conversations with like that person it was kind of like I think we were both in the same place of just like neither one of us were like saying anything like like emotions wise
Sometimes those be the most fun.
you know we're just vibing
Just processing our trauma together.
right until we realize like oh no I actually have feelings for you and now I don't know how to tell you because I was so comfy being the home girl but I want to be yo girl.
I feel like we got to talk about the other relationship, but I don't even feel like the other relationship really mattered because the
No.
album got written about the situationship, and I'm like, bro, which one was more important? But that relationship had to have been important because it was like 2 years, but at the same time, it's like they didn't get the album, so
They didn't get the album no I mean it was important in ways. But I think the more important things came after the relationship. Like the realizations came after. I was in that relationship for way too long. Um, so yeah, I think all the important stuff came after. That's why he didn't make the cut.
in that case, though, I feel like he inspired it in a way because what happened was is you went through all of that, you got to that low point because of him. And shout out him
Shout out
because
him.
shout out him because he
No,
put you in that
but
low
nah.
place, and then you came out that low place, and that's when that self discovery really happened.
Yeah. I mean, being in a relationship for 2 years where it was like we're locked in, like I'm playing wifey, like you don't like me to go out, you don't like me to be out partying. I'm in college. It's like literally what you're doing in college. I didn't do any of that for the first 2 years. I wasn't out smoking. I wasn't drinking. It's just like my mom was probably like, "Woo, yay!" But no, I wasn't experiencing things, and I think that's why he didn't get an album is because I wasn't living life. Like I didn't have anything to write about. But yeah, coming out of it, I was like, time to wow out. I got 1 year left.
Why did you allow yourself to be tied down for that long, though? In that case,
I don't think I really had the best like example of like what like a relationship, like a healthy relationship is in a way. Like I mean, I feel like I do now, but at that time I just didn't really think I had a sense of that and that on top of not knowing who I am, I was just letting other people tell me who I was and like I think yeah, that's what that relationship was. It was like maybe this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be like the stay at home, like, supporting my man, going to church every Sunday. Like, that's not me. That's like not me at all. I'm a crystal girl. Like, I'm like, I'm an independent woman. Like I drive my 2006 Ford Taurus. Like so yeah, I think it was a very immediate shift in personality back to like who I really am.
Definitely, like he probably looked up from the outside looking in, and he's like, "Damn, she completely changed. Like,
I
who
know
is
he's
this
like, "Who is
person?"
this girl?"
Like, I don't even. I don't
Even
think
if
I
he is
dated
even
that
paying
girl.
attention, but I know he's probably like, "Who is she?"
How have you seen these factors from all these different relationships continue to impact the way that new ones form?
Definitely the learning how to speak up for myself, advocate for myself, and kind of like also just if I'm gonna be in a relationship, that's the thing. I think I was just in relationships to be in relationships, like, and that's why I'm single right now. Is like I had to sit with myself, like, do you even like, do you want to be in a committed relationship right now? Like, there are certain elements to a relationship that I think I'm just not ready for, like the constant communication or the constant like having to consider somebody else or um, those are things that you should be doing in a relationship, but I think I'm in a selfish phase of my life with my career and everything. Like I don't really want to be obligated to give you a call every night to let you know how my day's going while I'm on tour. Like I want to just go to sleep after I get off the stage. You know what I mean? Like I think um until I find my person, I just don't think that I really I'm like, why am I doing this? You know what I mean? I'm like trying to force you to be somebody that I want you to be. You're trying to force me to be somebody you want me to be, and like we're just not meshing.
Because that's what it is, right? You know, when you become used to something for so long, whether that be with somebody or by yourself, you develop those habits, right? Like you said, I don't want to talk every single night. I just want to go to sleep. It's like that's what I want. And it's okay to be selfish, and you know that, right? It's okay to be selfish, but some people don't understand that. They're like, "No, I need to be in a relationship."
I am such a lover girl though. Like when I am in a relationship, I give my all. And I think that's why I was going into the tangent of like I don't need to be in a relationship because I don't have the capacity to give my all to somebody right now. I got to give it all to me. But when I am in a relationship, I love way too hard. So I guess that's a reflection I have to have for myself too.
Don't end up in a relationship. You'll stop doing this music shit.
Every time I do, I start slacking, and my manager is looking at me like, "Girl, we got a show," and I'm like, "But can my boot come?" Like,
I'll be telling people, I'm like, it's terrible. I know it's terrible. But when you see somebody get married or have a kid, it's a wrap. That's it.
I
Lights
mean,
out.
it doesn't have to be, but I think most of the time, yeah, it does end up that way. But I think it all plays into the partner that you're with, because like, now I don't mean to speak on her relationship because obviously I don't know her personally. But Victoria Monet, you see that she's with her partner and she has a child, and like from what we can see, like her career's doing amazing. Like seems like a super supportive partner. She's still got she's being able to be a great mother, at least from what we can see. Obviously, I don't know her life, but it is possible. It's just a lot harder.
Now to close up, to wrap up, right? We gotta talk about this closing track. Purpose. The whole album really it was hopeful but with a solemn tone. And even hope can be dark at times. And in the song Purpose, you say, "There's days I don't want to be here. I wish I could disappear, but my mother thinks I'm worth it. I'm just trying to find my purpose." What was going on at the time that made you feel like the only answer was to disappear?
I was just really struggling with like I'm working at a grocery store. I'm making this music and I'm loving making the music, but like what's happening with it and like what am I supposed to be doing? And it was just so much like commotion going on around me within my brain and everything. And I'm like, it just felt like it'd be easier if I just could just like not exist. And not in like I guess there's a dark element to it, but like in the peaceful sense of just like not having to do any of this stuff because it's just so hard. But like yeah, knowing that my mom is like, "You're worth it, girl. Like, you're worth the struggle, and once you get through that struggle, it's gonna be so beautiful." So, I think having the hope that it's gonna be so much more beautiful on the other side, um, helped me in that moment.
Do you feel like that time was worse than the recent depression you came out of?
No, this recent one was real rough, so y'all gonna get some good music.
What was going on then?
And some family struggles, some more career struggles. It was after the project had come out and just feeling like I didn't do enough with it in like personal relationships. Like I feel like I sound like I'm always in a dang relationship, but like I am. Like
It sounds like you need some alone time.
yeah, no, exactly. That's where I'm at now. I'm taking my alone time because clearly these relationships be whooping my ass. But yeah, out of another relationship and just like I mean, also like the whole like chemical side of things, like just being in a really dark place. I had just moved out of my apartment back into my parents' house. Like it was just a rough
You were
time.
going through it
I
for
was
real.
going through it, feeling like I had all these car issues. My car died. Like I drive an old fuddy duddy car, and I love her. Her name is
2006.
Pearl.
Hey, that's my
Um,
car's name.
is it really?
Yeah, with the Black Pearl.
Wow. So mine's like this like silver grayish color, which she actually has a really beautiful backstory, but it's a long backstory. But yeah, so my car died. I'm broke. I'm living with my parents.
Sounds rough.
But I've been writing amazing music,
And now you're on tour.
and I'm on tour. Yeah, I went on tour. Like that was actually right before the Mariah tour, and then I came back, and it was still tailing on a little bit. Um, but yeah, now I'm on my own tour, and
So where do you feel like you are mentally now?
if I was to put a word to it, it'd be like realistic. Um, I'm still aware that like I'm not exactly where I want to be. Um, but I'm also in a great position. So like obviously I'm not where I'm gonna want to be like 5 years from now because it's not 5 years from now. Like I think I had to reel myself back in. So I think I'm very much so in the middle of like um life is beautiful, sunshine and rainbows, but also you got to get to this grind.
What do you feel like continues to pull you through each time?
I guess this is where a little bit of the Leo comes into is like when I do get the validation of like when I put some music out or like it connects with somebody and like it makes somebody else feel good, that makes me feel so good. Like I love knowing that people can connect to my stuff or can connect to my music or me, even the stories that I tell. So I think that's what pulls me through is like that feeling. It's like a very euphoric feeling.
Previously, you've said that you didn't see yourself putting your heart on the line in music or through music. Why?
That's my biggest thing about like being an artist. Because I feel like there's a difference between being a musician and being an artist. Like as a performing and recording artist, like not all artists are very musical, which I think I have a strife with. But anyway, tangent. I'm a musician at my core, but the whole choosing to be an artist is putting my music out and like for people to dissect or for people to have opinions on or for people to even just me as a person have opinions on me um and like it's very easy to see those things and like feel a way about yourself like you even Doja Cat recently was talking about how like y'all just picking me apart. Liz was talking about it picking me apart and like you think I don't see these things but I do see these things and you have thousands of people saying negative things. But I think what made me like not let that stop me was like yeah there's thousands of people that say the negative things but there's hundreds of thousands or millions that like you're actually affecting and changing their lives. And not only that, my music I write for myself and I make for myself and is my healing process. And so being able to have my healing process also be a healing process for other people, it's very fulfilling. So I kind of just I've had a couple trolls recently but I had to rein myself in
What they
because
say?
I just like some YouTube comments and things. Like this one lady was like, "Did that man have to carry you in? Because your skirt is so tight, you can't even walk." Which was that was even one of the bad ones. Like I think I actually find trolls funny. Like, but my problem is I'll go back and forth with the trolls sometimes, and my manager was like, "You got to stop doing that."
It'd be like that.
Just people having the nerve to comment. I also like because I'm not that type of person. Maybe I'll say something like with my friends or like whatever. I'll say something to my dad like, "Why she got that shirt on?" But like I would never comment on somebody's post or go up to somebody and be like, "You look fat." Like, what is wrong with
You're
you?
not a D1 hater?
No, like do something better with your life. I don't know, but yeah, I think that was probably where that was coming from as a deterrent of like, do I really want my whole life to be dissected by the masses?
I don't know. When you do this long enough, you just forget like people are commenting for real. And it can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing because right, you filter out all that bad, but you don't go back and look at all the good things that people are saying. Like if somebody says this hit, I felt this. To me, sometimes it just feels too much like work. So I never go back and look at the comments because it's like I'm glad it helped you, but man, every day this shit is work.
Yeah. I mean, but the thing is, like I said, like with music being such like a spiritual experience for me and such like a healing experience for me and something so raw and vulnerable for me, to think of like putting out your most like your deepest, darkest diary entry. Yeah, and like putting it out and then somebody like just picking it apart or be like, this is the worst shit I've ever heard in my life. Like, dang. Now I'm like, okay, I don't care as much. But yeah, at that time, I was kind of like, is that really what I want to do?
So now going through all of this, going through these highs and lows, this depression multiple times, what do you feel like your purpose is now?
I say this all the time. I don't think we have just one true purpose. Like throughout our lifetime. I think it is ever evolving. But I think my purpose right now is just to continue to learn myself, learn the world, and to just be a vessel. So to help others and to just continue to like take in the beauty of life is what feels like my purpose right now.
Man, you name your album Purpose, you're bound to get that question multiple
Yeah, I know. I
times.
get it all the time, and I'm always like, I actually couldn't tell you exactly what it is. But I mean, I'm also like, do we even have one true purpose in life? I think that's a question for everybody to sit with at home.
It's weird. It's complicated. I've been asked that question too. I'm like, man, I couldn't tell you. I'm 20, uh, 24 now. Fuck. Oh, you said that when you turned 24, that shit sucked or something.
I got a song called "Cheers to 24."
Who hurt you? What did 24 do to you?
24 was just, it wasn't even a who hurt me, like I hurt me. Like the expectations of like we creeping up on 25, which is only 5 years away from 30, and like you living at home with your parents. Like, but which is an expectation I'm setting for myself. Like all of it was, that's why I say I hurt me. Expectations I was setting for myself and not reaching. And then just like life struggles, like my car breaking down, me having no money, like, my music not going as far as all these things happening at 24. Um, and I've heard from a lot of my friends like 24 was just a rough year for them. So good luck.
No, please.
But I wrote Cheers to 24 3 days before my 24th birthday. So like 23 wasn't easy for me either.
What other expectations do you have for yourself that you're hoping the outcome will change as time goes on?
The expectation of like getting shit done in a time that is not working for me. Like I'm on tour, so it's making it a little bit harder to finish music. But I'm like, but you have to put out music as soon as you get back, which is just like not a realistic expectation, because it's not as simple as just putting a song out. Like there's a whole thing like a whole month of like getting ready for it that happens. So I guess that would be one for me. But yeah, I feel like my heart and soul is telling me I'm supposed to be filthy rich right now. Um, and
Your palms itch?
yeah, but they're a little dry. But yeah, I'm supposed to be filthy rich right now, and I'm not yet.
The 2024.
20 cheers to 2024.
Make sure you guys go ahead, like, comment, and subscribe. You got anything to plug?
Yeah, I just put out my acoustic version of the Purpose EP, available, the live acoustic version, available now on all streaming platforms and on YouTube if you want to watch it. I look kind of cute, so.
Make sure you go ahead, check out Lea The Leo. Sad Boys for real. Peace out.
This is Sad Boy Radio.